Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Every now and then I get a reel in that's just a basket case, and I call them project reels, tuition reels. They don't work, and this one came in a box of reels that I purchased. It's a Spidercast reel. Spider Wire is was the brand. These were affiliated with Mitchell, and this one, well, it's a disaster. And sometimes I just like to go in and do a post-mortem, find out why the reels failed, and maybe I'll find a weak spot to them, or maybe I'll just find that they just weren't taken care of, and any reel would have failed under those conditions. This rotor does not turn at all. We are totally locked in on that one. I'm looking at the case. I'm noticing a lot of sand. I'm noticing greening on the screws, and totally frozen reel. So I'm going to take it apart, and we're going to find out what we can find out. And I hope you enjoy some of these things in terms of looking at the diagnosis of why a particular fishing reel may have failed, and maybe we can learn from it. This reel was made in Korea. The Spider Wire was one of those early brands to market with the braid, and this would have been complementary to that. This Spider Wire itself comes, I believe it's under Pure Fishing in the Mitchell kind of wing of things. We'll see what's going on. I just flipped the anti-reverse switch to off. That didn't seem to affect anything one way or another. And I think the best thing to do here, if I have a chance of getting these screws out, is kind of putting some WD-40 or penetrating oil on there. I'm going to take the exterior pieces and parts off. We'll start by removing that spool after the handle. That usually gives us a good indication. Just look at the sand in that. It's just totally loaded with sand. So I'm wondering if it's possible that somebody even pulled this one up off of the beach. It could happen. Whether it did happen or not, I don't know. But if reels could talk, we would learn lessons from those reels. And I'm trying to learn a lesson here. I want to see if this was kind of operator error, or if this is just poor design, materials, etc. on the reel itself. So this one was made in Korea, so there's generally an indication from that the timing on this reel is probably early 2000s, somewhere in there. I just took the click ratchet off. That enables me to pull the spool, the rotor, and get a better look at what's going on underneath here. So I'm going to use a screwdriver here to remove that lock screw in the rotor. And a couple of things going on while I'm doing this here, just so you know, regardless of whether it's just a reel that'll probably never go fishing again, like this one, or a reel that you're working on to get back out there to the fishing grounds. I use a protective glove on my hand. I use that to keep the debris in the lake off of my hands. There's a lot of greases and things that happen from time to time. There's all kinds of stuff that just finds its way into fishing reels, and I would prefer to keep them in the fishing reels as opposed to trying to work around them and get them all over my hands. So a socket that will deal with that. There you go. Alright, we can get that off. So I don't know where the 12mm went, but I use a deep socket for this. We can do that. That goes into my parts tray, and I use a parts tray to collect all of the pieces I take off of a reel. There are different organizing systems out there. Some people like to line them off in the way that they've taken the reels off and the like. In my case, I'm just going straight ahead with that. All right, the rotor came off. Still no movement on that pinion gear at all, so something's going on underneath. You can see it's just totally sanded. And I'm going to actually stop the video here. I'm just going to run faucet tap water over it to clear out some of that sand so that I don't get it on my... So that jet of water actually helped to blow a lot of that out. Now I don't necessarily need to worry too much about transference of sand and the like to my other pieces. This is an older style anti-reverse, which also helps you to date the reel. 3 of these screws hold it in. The 4th one holds the cover on those roller bearings, so you can take 3 of the 4 off, and that's what I'm going to do here. And then I'm going to go downstairs. I'm actually going to remove the case, and we'll see what's going on there. If you enjoy the hobby of reel repair, if you're working on a reel, and maybe I'm giving you a help here by showing you some of the things, then I would ask you to subscribe to my channel. If you subscribe to my channel, please hit the notification button. That'll keep you advised as to when I post a video, and you can make a determination as to whether you want to see it. I work on all kinds of reels. Today we're working on basically just a Sherlock Holmes kind of thing. What happened to this reel, sort of a thing. I do that from time to time, just when my curiosity kind of gets me. I took the 3 screws out just to make sure that they're all the same, in case there's ever a hope of putting this back together again. And now we're going to remove that anti-reverse clutch. You can test that right here. There's a little bearing here. Get that out of the way. Well, this one's pretty much frozen. I think what we got here, we have a frozen bearing here as well, and I don't think this is ever coming out of there. All right, let's take the case off, and we'll visit the crime scene, see what we can learn there. So this one I expected to be just a goner from the beginning. When you can't get movement at all in a reel, it generally says that there's parts in there that are probably steel. They've rusted together, and in this case I'm sure that bearing is a piece of it. Steel bearing that's rusted, and probably rusted to the pinion gear or gear shaft, and chances are that that one is not bronze. It's probably some kind of metal that rusts, and I think we're not going to get much further than just taking this case off and seeing what happened here. So I'm always curious, and I think that's probably one of the things that makes the reel repair business and hobby fun. It kind of satisfies your curiosity in a lot of things, mechanical. And we're going to try and get this off now. I'm going to use a razor knife to try and separate the case. Here's a little bump guard here. Let's get that off in case that's getting in the way. I thought I could get the case off without it. We'll find out. No sense going too far too fast here. Yeah, we should have been able to get that case off. But let's see if we can continue there. I know I just broke the seam now. Okay, so with a little persuasion, that came apart. And this is a neat reel. This is not a cheap reel underneath. And we're running again. So you can see this reel has a worm drive gear in it. So I'm not sure. This is getting curious. So let's go ahead and remove the axle shaft then, see if we can pull the main gear and see what's going on under there. I'm not convinced it isn't just this. Okay, to remove the axle shaft, you're going to take the set screw out. That's held in by a little Phillips head screw. We should be able to remove the axle shaft. That's all gummed up. Again, that's not probably what's causing this, but it doesn't hurt to clean that off as well while we're doing this. Now we should be able to remove the main gear. And after you remove the main gear, you can see that this is not a cheap reel by any design. I'm going to test that back bearing. Well, that one's still moving. Test this one. This one's still moving. So I'm getting a little bit optimistic that this reel can get a second chance. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to spray this down with some penetrating oil on the bearings and the inside. We'll want to make a ride on this. You can see everything's working the way that this should be working here. So that's encouraging. So we're back up top here then. And I want to see what happens. So I'm not getting any movement at all. This should be a free movement here, and I'm not getting any movement whatsoever. So this may be the part that's failing. So we're going to put the rest of this back together again. I'm not even going to attempt to pull that bearing out. I'm just assuming that that's not going to happen. Just for fun, we'll go back and we'll put the grease on this. There'll be a lot of work to do to make it go fishing again. But for the moment, we're doing that problem diagnosis. And I don't normally put grease on worm gears, but this is an internal piece. We can go ahead and do that. Clean up the old grease. There wasn't much on the main gear. Go ahead and put the grease back on. And then we'll take that bearing assembly apart, see what we can learn there. All right, this goes back in. We're kind of reversing ourselves now, right? Going to do that. Going to seat the main gear back in. We want to grab our axle shaft. Axle shaft can go back in. Then you want to align that axle shaft with the holes together so that we can put that little screw back in. So if you have questions on this reel or any reel in particular, and maybe you're working on one and you're stumped, maybe this is kind of how I find the answers to a lot of those things. I just kind of go exploring on reels that fail, and then I get a question from somebody that also wants to know why did their reel fail. And sometimes I get the answer because, well, the experience is there. I did this and found out that that's exactly why it failed. I'm going to put this back on because it didn't free up until I took the case off. Well, it's working now. There you go. All right. Put the case screws back in, and we're going to go over to that anti-reverse bearing then, because everything else here says that the reel should work. But I know when I just put that on the pinion gear, it wasn't moving. So I think we may have found an answer here. Now you're not supposed to oil clutches, anti-reverse clutches, but in this case that may be the only way it's going to get freed. We'll see. I'd like to think that there's replacement parts available for that. I'm not sure I want to invest any time or money or effort into it, but I would like to think that the parts are still available there. As I mentioned, I think it was part of the Pure Fishing lineup, and probably belonged to the Mitchell brand at some point. All right, let's get this back on. That's the bottom end of the case, and we know that's working, so that's pretty cool. Sometimes you get surprised. I thought it was going to be something in the bottom end of the case that was frozen. It's not. Okay, we have that in place now. I'm just going to try one more time with this thing, see if we can't get it moving. Yeah, no, that's locked in. All right, so there's one screw here that's going to hold the top of the roller bearing assembly on. Now we're going to see if we can even get this off. There'll be a series of springs and other things in here. You need to be careful if you're going to go ahead and remove one of these, because they will shoot. So I'm going to use a razor knife just to pry up gently. And I guess that's what the answer is here. We've got 4 roller bearings rusted to the collar. So I think this is going to be one of these that's, well, fairly easy to solve. We just have to see if we can't free the rust up here. And I'm going to put that on here. I'm just going to let it soak. I think that's all you can do at this point, is just, you can see we're already free here. Oh, look at that. We're freeing up already. Very interesting. Just with a little bit of gunking and the like. All right, the assembly I let sit for some time. Then I went in, I cleaned it out. Now I want to reinstall the covers. So there's 3 screws that we took off that mounted to the reel, and then there was 1 set screw underneath. So look for your triangular pattern and look for the 2 holes that are close to each other. And then you should be able to get this installed. There you go. And then the 1 screw went into the corner here. And now I'm going to test it, see if we did any better or if we're just kind of stuck where we were stuck before. All right, now we're moving. Very good. This is doing what it should be doing. Okay. I wish I could do something with this bearing here. This is frozen into the case, and sometimes you just gotta know when to quit on it and just not try to do it. The bearing itself is turning. It's not locked in, so all I'll do is just oil that, and I'll apologize in advance to the purists out there. There is a override underneath here. You want to line that up with the tag. And that has to get seated in order for you to put the rest in. So use your there we go. You have to use your override switch below to get it into that little position. We'll take those 3 long screws that go in. I can remember opening up the first one of these roller bearing ones. It was on a Shimano. It was a little bit different setup than this, and I had the roller bearings fall all over the place. There's some bearing situations out there that just are not real easy to work with. That was one of them. My advice, I guess, if you're working on a Mitchell 400 series with the roller bearings, don't ever take that apart. They have little pin bearings in them that will scatter all over the place as well. All right, let's clean up that rotor then. I didn't flush that out. I wish I did. But I think what I'm going to find right now is that that shaft is going to be turning. Just have to close the last one up here. So this is a surprise. I did not expect this reel to work again. I believed there was going to be a broken part inside, like a broken crosswind block or something. But we actually have a turning reel here. It's going to sound lousy, but it's going to work. All right, I'm just going to mop out the old sand. I'm going to do that off my desk because I don't want the sand again to become bothersome to the rest of it. There's a little shield bearing that goes on, or shield washer that goes on next. And our rotor goes on. And the rotor nut goes on. Millimeter wrench was just being elusive. All right, we'll take that. Grab our screw to tighten that down. There's still a little bit of sand on the top of that rotor cap. I'll get around to it. Tighten down on the set screw. And I have reels like this from time to time. Like I said, they become project or tuition reels. If I get them going again, and if they're noisy, well, I just give them away. I find some deserving kid or Boy Scouts or somebody, and all I do is pass them along. They're all too happy to have one, noisy or not. And at least it gives me an outlet for some of these rather than the trash bin. All right, the click ratchet goes on. The spool shim washer goes on. That keeps the line height regulated. The spool, we got a lot of sand back in here too. So it's pretty obvious that this reel was not cared for, that there was some saltwater intrusion that occurred. That got into the anti-reverse roller clutch there. And again, off camera because I want that sand to fall on the floor and not on my bench. And that seems to have been what caused it to seize up. And now we'll put this back on and see if we can't make it work. I like the insides. The inside is almost set up like a Shimano. Some of the higher end Shimanos have those worm drives, and they're very dependable reels. All right, in one side. Look at that, it's turning. So we can't make it work completely. Then we'll go back cleaning it up. I'll do some more stuff if it actually is working. All right, let's give it a ride. You know what? It's not even that noisy. Look at that. Whoa. All right, now the important question, does it anti-reverse? Yes, it does. Wow. Hey, sometimes I even impress myself. There you go. Spidercast 50 size reel. Back to living, given a second chance, the SCA50. Really smooth for a reel that was seized up there. Noisy burring, but you know, I guess if I wanted to spend the time and the effort, we could probably work on pulling that out of the cavity. But for a reel that was given up for lost, I think we'll find a deserving young fella or gal, and we'll clean this one up and give it to them to take fishing. So I hope you've enjoyed that. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Please, everybody, stay safe, stay well, and stay watching. If you're a first responder, thank you for everything it is that you do. If you're essential personnel, ditto on that. We appreciate everything that the uniformed services, everybody in medical and the like are doing, fire, police, rescue. Thank you for all of your efforts. We're right in the midst of this pandemic again, and hopefully we'll get through this one just as well. So this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.